Abha Singh, senior lawyer and activist, joins us. Thank you, Ms. Singh, for joining us on NDTV. This is, sometimes it just feels that it's coming from movies. We've seen movies like this in the past, but this is an extraordinary case, and the heart does go out for the victim. But POCSO, we need stricter laws when it comes to protection of children from sexual exploitation. There's been a lot of talk about the blanket criminalization that adolescent love sometimes faces. But this clearly, how do you look at something like this? Do you think that the Supreme Court did the right thing here?
Vasudha, you're very right when you say that heart goes out to the victim. But if you see, if there are drawbacks in the law, if the law itself is unable to give justice to these adolescent loves, because on one hand, you say that if anybody has sexual intercourse with a child who's less than 18, any child is gender neutral, POCSO is gender neutral, it will be treated as rape. Now, we all know the way the system is right now. Young children in their 16s, 17s are exploring sex. So something which is done out of love, which is done out of infatuation, how do you treat it as rape? And this is the very case Supreme Court had to face a very catch-22 situation. It clearly said that you need to set up a committee. This came from West Bengal, and it said, no, you need to look into it, because there they were trying to close the case, and the court said, no, it cannot be closed without a detailed inquiry, because here the victim who had complained of POCSO, who had complained of rape, eventually had married that man, and she had a child with him. And what was even shocking, I would not call it shocking, I would call it very natural, that the victim, when she married him, was trying to defend the person who had raped her or the one who had committed crime against her. So I think Supreme Court has reached a very valid position. It does say that the society was not kind to her. She had to go out and defend, and blah blah. But the crux is that the Supreme Court cannot penalize the man who has married her now, who's a husband, who's the father of a child, because the time has come now to rectify the law. Even though it violates the POCSO Act, but in case it's a consensual physical relationship, it should not be treated as rape. Because let me tell you, in Mumbai, in the Dongri child home, I have seen so many of these young boys in their 17, 18. They've had affairs, they've had relationships, and later on the girl has turned hostile, and they are being treated as rape victims. Can you imagine school-going kids now undergoing punishment for rape? So Supreme Court needs to look also into that. It may have let off this one person, but not everyone has the money or the legal help to come to the Supreme Court. So I think this case should be taken as an example, and a law should be passed that every school child who is into a physical relationship with a minor child should not be treated as a rapist without a proper committee looking into it.
So, Abha ma'am, that brings us to this contentious question of age of consent. I know that the government has not decided on that. 16 to 18, that remains, one of the bones of contention here. And we all know that children are getting mature these days quite earlier on. And also, the most important part is POCSO has several good things about it. The fact that digital porn or porn related to children gets penalized, the fact that children can go and speak about what really happened to them at a place of their choice. So there are certain good things about POCSO. What are the things that you think needs a review right on?
Yes, POCSO is a very strong act. For once, at least now it is trying to protect children, in the sense there is minimum imprisonment in penetrative assault, Section 6 of POCSO. It clearly says minimum 10 years imprisonment. And it also talks of life imprisonment. So it has been able to protect children, make them safe. But yes, this particular clause where it says that if you have a physical relationship with a child who's less than 18, it would be treated as rape. I think in today's time. And then again, when I come to age of consent, for marriage, it can be different. You can say marriage before 18 is not allowed, or marriage before 21, if there are people talking about that age of marriage should be increased. But it has to be delinked from marriage, has to be delinked from sex, because in today's time, when you have live-in relationships, in today's time, when the Western influence is so much that children of 14, 15 are going for physical relationships, how can you treat it as rape? Because even one person innocent who has eloped. There are so many cases where these school kids have eloped with girls, and then under parental pressure, these girls have turned hostile. So I don't want these innocent school kids who've had I would say, a teenage romance being termed as rapists. So this clause needs to go. We need to remove this section. Not only this, I would say even for adults, because so many times it's seen that people say that no, for 4 years he had sex with me on the false promise of marriage, and then you treat it as rape. I think when sex is consensual, there should be no punishment for rape at all.
Right. Thank you, Abba Singh, lawyer and activist, speaking on this very important landmark ruling by Supreme Court.